Welcome to our YouTube channel. We cover your favorite stories in minutes. Hang out with us and don't forget to subscribe. The tale unfolds with the busy traffic where everyone is honking horns. A man inside his car looks at the side mirror and notices Semin standing in front of cars and blocking traffic. He wonders why he is blocking the road, but suddenly, Lee jumps on the car. A huge portal opens and monsters emerges from there. Lee tells everyone to run away and hide. People leave their vehicles and starts running. Chaos spreads all over the road. Lee was ready to face the monsters, and he gets into position. Terrifying dogs emerge from the gate and Lee starts killing them. Raiders also get there to kill those monsters, and one of them narrates that the gate is still open, which means that monsters are still pouring out. He informs everyone to clear the road because they are raiders who are soldiers trained to kill monsters. Raiders get shocked when they look at the huge dragon named Quadra Drake. Only higher-level raiders can face those monsters who have a golden mark on them, and raiders still need perfect preparation to face those monsters. Lee jumps on huge dragon, and his level of aura was astonishing. He slashes his sword and brutally kills the dragon. Raiders were shocked to see a person killing that monster with just one blow. Lee was wearing a jacket with a golden dragon engraved on it. The scene shifts to the backstory of Semin, who was the fat and chubby guy before. A dark, shadowy figure tells him that it may seem nothing, but for those who have fallen, that single step can feel like a cliff. Remember, when helping someone who has fallen, just one word is enough. He encourages Lee that he is not a coward, which changed everything for Lee. He narrates that since the appearance of monsters that tear humans apart, the world has divided into raiders and non-raiders. The scene shifts to the Raider Management Bureau, where Lee was waiting for his turn. The accountant tells him that it's his turn now. Lee narrates that in order to become a raider, they have to check their aura levels and take exams. Only those with aura levels above a certain level are eligible to take the test. Lee enters the room, and the nurse tells him that she will skip all the explanations because he already knows everything. Lee is comfortable with that. However, she asks some more questions, but Lee tells her to take the test, and he will leave after that. Lee gets inside the machine to take the test, but he realizes that his aura levels are still 103, even after all of that training and hard work. Lee was sorrowful to hear that, and he comes back home after signing an agreement. Lee notices a notification on his laptop, and when he opens his computer, he realizes that a new member has been enrolled on the site. He opens a site and talks to the new member and his friends. We get to realize that Lee is a keyboard warrior, which means he is a loser outside. He taunts his online friends and sarcastically jokes about them. He checks the news, but when he opens the page, it is shown that An Sungjin, who used to bully Lee in school, has achieved a platinum mark who works as a raider. Lee was frustrated to realize that the guy who used to bully him has now achieved something greater in his life. Lee was very pissed and punched his deck. Suddenly another member joins the group. Her name was Grand Wizard Ileana. At first, Lee taunts her, but then he asks her to come and see him. He was joking, but surprisingly a portal opened behind his chair, and she emerges from the gate. Lee was shocked to see her and he panics. She asks about him and exclaims that she wanted to see what kind of person he is, and then she asks for his name. Iana walks towards Lee and he gets scared. A strange tentacle emerges from her staff and she grabs Lee. She picks him up using her tentacle. Meanwhile, Lee is suffocating, and she questions why he is so weak. Lee begs her to spare his life. However, she exclaims that his skills are worse than a bug. Then she asks him about how he even connects to the Transcendent Network. Iana asks for his name, and he tells her that if she let him go, then he will tell his name. She accepts his request, and Lee falls on the ground. He asks for her name, and she introduces herself as Iana. She says that he was speaking very well before then. She questions if he is a raider. Lee tries to answer her questions, but he is confused, so she demands for a clear answer. Lee explains that in his world there is something called an aura, and people who hunt beasts using it are called raiders. Iana asks him to show his aura. He tries to use all of his power, but he was able only to generate a little bit of power, which pisses her off. Then it was her turn to show her power. When she generates her power, the ground starts shaking, and Lee gets scared because he thought that she is going to take his life. His neighbors also gets worried and they ask Lee if he is okay. Meanwhile, Iana was pissed because she used all of her points to get there. She asks him how he managed to access the Transcendental Network, which he responds with confusion, that he does not know anything. He tells her that a site popped up on his laptop, confused. Iana asks about the computer and Lee tells her that there is not much to tell, Then she asks him about his story. He narrates his backstory, that as an awakened person, he used to get bullied a lot by his friends and other boys, which led to a dropout from school. After hearing his story, she exclaims that now she has to go, but she threatens him that if he tries to mess with bulletin board again, she will definitely kill him. She also informs him to post an apology letter on Zone. But before entering the portal, she tells him that he has his own life. Even though society is cruel, still he has to live and go out. Her words were comforting for Lee, and he asks her if they will ever meet again, which she responds with one condition. And the condition for Lee to transcend, Lee motivates himself to become better and transcend. Lee writes an apology letter on the site as Iana wished for, and he also texts everyone that he is an unemployed bum, and he will blow their minds with his intense thoughts. Watching Transcendent became Lee's life, and it made him happier. And he enjoyed every moment on that website, because there were other raiders on the site. A raider named Hung Nim posts a pic of his family after a while. Hyung Nim was born as the son of a noble slave and became a mercenary with stolen swordsmanship after his mother was killed by the master. After that, they slaughtered all the noble bloodlines and was born as the strongest warrior of the continent. Lee comments on his family and appreciates him for having a newborn son who looked like him. Another sword demon, Persian, is an elite-level raider. Persian is the continent's #1 swordmaster. He tells Lee that he has developed feelings for a girl, and he does not know how to talk to her. So he asks for his opinion and tips to approach his crush. Lee gives him some tips on how to approach her. He tells him to look at her back and say, "Where have your wings gone?" By saying this, she will be impressed and think that she is an angel in his eyes. Lee tells him that if she smiles, then he should say something like, "I feel my heart explode because of your smile." He tells Lee that if everything goes well, he will come and visit him. Lee was happy to hear that Persian would come to visit him one day. However, he narrates that he noticed something common in Transcendence, which is the executing ability, and they always keep their promises to themselves. They never compromise or run away, but unlike all of them, Lee's reality is laziness. He disgraces himself and exclaims that he would never become a raider, and he cannot achieve his dreams. He starts drinking beer and thinking about the past days. Lee narrates that he wanted to become better and show everyone that he is worthy of respect and power. It was his childhood dream to become a raider, but he is stuck at aura level 103. While drinking, he writes a message on site that he wants to change himself. He wakes up after some time, and he was shocked to see that he wrote something weird on the site while he was heavily drunk. Lee received different responses from different transcendents, but they were encouraging. Suddenly, one powerful transcendent emerges from portal behind Lee and asks him if he is an unemployed bum. Semin. Lee was shocked because his aura levels were astonishing. Suddenly, he puts his hand on Lee's back, and Lee feels an immense pain. It felt like snakes were crawling all over his body. He realizes that Lee has not gave up yet, and both of them travels to other dimension. Lee asks about the strange place, and he introduces himself as Dokgo Cheons, the greatest martial artist in history, and he declares that Lee is not a coward.